Hey guys, it's Drew again. I just want to do a real quick video. I want to do a video response to Basement Card Collector. I would stumble over that, and he reached 100 subs, and he's got this little contest going on. And I just wanted to give him a little support, just the way you guys have given me so much support. He and I seem very similar in our YouTube channels. We started about the same time. We hit 100 around the same time, and yeah, it's just been a journey. So to you, I want to say congratulations, and so here goes. Here's my attempt at telling a story. So he wanted to hear our origin story as far as like collecting, what got us into it and stuff. And while I've told the meat of the very beginning when I was a little kid, I'll kind of fill in some details in between being the little kid with the first cards I ever saw, and then, you know, being really in college, which is where I really started exploding and getting into collecting and stuff. So as you may know, if you've watched my very earlier videos, I started, first time I ever saw cards, 1978. My brother had an accident. He was in the hospital. Someone brought him some cards, and those were the only cards we had. We didn't have much means as a family, so that was it. It was just the one box of cards, and we flipped through them, and I learned about baseball and all that kind of stuff, and that was all we had for a few years. So the details in that story has already been given, but let's move forward a little bit. So in 1981, by this point our family had moved, and it was the first time we were living in a more suburban kind of area, so neighborhoods, kids out on the sidewalk playing, corner stores, that kind of thing. And my brother, older brother, he had bought some packs from a local store, and I guess he bought what was cheapest, and he had gotten some Donruss, which were brand new 1981 Donruss. And so those were the second cards I ever saw outside of 1978 Topps. And I remember not liking them. I remember thinking these are terrible looking. I remember thinking the backs looked ugly compared to the backs of the 78s. The 78s had a game on it. I didn't know anything about the history of Topps and their monopoly for decades, and then, you know, Fleer and Donruss coming in. I was just a kid. I was in 4th grade, and I just knew I didn't really like these cards compared to the cards that we already had experienced. So that was kind of it, those two types of things. But I started becoming a big baseball fan, and I started learning about the game and getting my team and my players and all that stuff. I just never had cards. I never had anybody who said, here's a pack. I never really thought about collecting cards. Not until fast forward mid-80s. So this is a very similar situation to what John Mangini just explained in a video a couple of days ago. He talked about how he used to cut through the woods, and we used to do the same thing. So where I lived at this point, we moved a lot as a kid, but at this point there was a neighbor who would send us to the store for her and buy her stuff at the little local corner store, and then, you know, whatever was left over she could give us as a tip, basically. And we would cut through the woods as a shortcut, come up, and usually, you know, I might buy a soda because, you know, I was a kid. But what I would do is I would buy stickers. Remember the Topps stickers from the mid 80s, 85, 6, 7, those years or whatever? That's what I was buying, was these stickers. I had the sticker book, I'd put them in, and again, it was just fun. These were now pictures of the players that I was watching on TV and hearing about, and not just the teams that I followed up in the New York area, but actually all around the country. And I remember one year talked a lot about the Pete Rose breaking the hit record, and so he was featured primarily, and so that was kind of cool, just learning that stuff. But it still wasn't cards. A couple of years later, well, actually probably about a year or so later, our local high school used to put on a flea market within the gym of the high school to raise money for stuff. And I would go to this flea market, and there was a guy there, and it was the first time I ever saw a card dealer. And he would have all sorts of cards there, and I remember looking and not thinking about the prices, but this is the first time I ever saw vintage cards. But to me, it was like $1 billion, you know. So I'd be like, oh my gosh, he's got a Hank Aaron card. I don't even remember what years they were, but I never thought about how much are those things. So what I did was, he would have hand collated sets that he had busted, probably cases, and put together, and I would buy a set. And I did that for every year starting in 1986. I don't have those sets anymore. Like a lot of us, our collecting goes through different evolution, and you know, you get it all, and then you get rid of some, and back and forth or whatever, until you refine to what you really like. And so unfortunately I don't have any of the cards that I had as a kid, not the 78s, not those 81 Donruss. I don't have the sticker books. I don't have my 86 set, the first set that I ever had, where I actually have cards that I still have. Would have been 91. At that point, I was early in college, and I really got into it. Card shops were springing up everywhere, so there was one same cut through the woods, and we'd go up there all the time and buy cards and packs, and that's where I started getting into more stuff and looking and seeing that there was a value in the cards, a monetary value, but also the connection in history. So that's kind of where it started. I still have all my cards. That's where my Griffey explosion started. Would have been in early 91, and then moving on from there. And yeah, all through the junk years and everything else, and until I finally settled on what I have now. But there's a little bit of my story. You know, started as a kid, couple cards, really interesting. I just never had the opportunity to go get packs and buy packs just because of either where I lived. Our family didn't have the money to be able to do stuff like that. And it just never was on my radar. But you know what? I have such great memories of baseball and learning baseball, and then when I finally connected to a card, it was just like magic, and I hope you guys find that magic. So anyway, congratulations on 100 subs. Thanks for watching, and until next time, you guys be good.